Agathon, the servant of Elohim, so called in the 3rd year of the reign of Charles ibn Philip, the sacred history of Judea Israel. Concerning the triune God Elohim, which we present to your lofty station, O Agapamenos, and containeth all things needful to bear witness the power of the Most High, and the manner in which your own power is founded and sanctified and made an heir to all creation by that of the Prince of Peace who ruleth all creation. 1. The Trinity. The supreme being and ground of all reality is Elion, who begetteth and bringeth forth a son without mother, and calleth his name Yahweh. And Elion sendeth forth from himself a spirit and calleth him Chokmah. And these three say, Come, let us create things of essence unlike unto ourselves, and which change and are contingent. Thus is separated the unchanging realm, or throne, the noetic reality, whereupon abideth Elohim the Trinity, from the formless void spacetime or cosmos. 2. Creation. Chokmah in spacetime began its changing, that is to say, began time, and Elohim created in her, within spacetime, light, whose essence was other than Elohim's own, for to glorify Elohim. And wheresoever is not light, Elohim called darkness, which is no creature at all. Elohim then cast a part of spacetime up above the other, divided by that film called heaven. In the upper part, he created all gods, or angels, that is, messengers, having souls each his own, with mind and conscience, and in the lower, he gathered altogether the lower part so that there was water altogether in one place and dry land in places above, calling the water sea and the land earth. Elohim spake that the earth bring forth grass, herbs, trees yielding fruit. And Elohim spake that there be the two great luminaries called sun and moon that should turn about the wheel of heaven, and all the stars of heaven and the planets of the lower heavens. Elohim spake that the waters bring forth living creatures within them and birds to fly above them and above the land, and he created whales and dragons and filled the waters and skies. Then Elohim spake the earth that she brought forth living beasts and cattle and worms and all that live upon the earth. And finally then did Elohim say, Let us make in our image, after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. He created man, male and female, and blessed them and said, Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth and subdue her, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. 3. Fall of Helel. The gods worshipped Elohim as he created these things. They builded the throne of Elohim whereupon he sitteth in his temporal manifestation for all time, even unto ages of ages. One such God is worshipped Elohim about his throne, by name Helel, not having understanding that Elohim is outside all time, not understanding that the Elohim who sitteth upon the throne, whose face is ever before the heavenly host, is but the temporal shadow of the uncreated Elohim who is outside of all time, from all eternity unto all eternity, said unto his fellows, We can each of us be like unto Elion and unto Yahweh and unto Chokmah and can create things. The gods took counsel and told Helel, Be it not so, for we know not from whence we came, and suppose not that we should reiterate the divine by thinking ourselves like unto him who is without time. But Helel was adamant that the creature might be like unto the Creator, and all who followed after this heresy of Helel were reckoned enemies of Elohim and cast out from their station among the other gods, and made their homes in the earth. 4. Adam and his wife. Elohim formed a man out of dust and clay, and breathed Chokmah unto him that he came to life, and was the man whom Elohim had created. And he put this man in a garden penned all about and filled with every good thing, bearing 4 streams called Pison, Gihon, Hiddekel, and Euphrates, which garden was called Eden, and the man Adam. And he bade the man eat of everything in the garden except for the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and he brought forth from the ground every beast he had created, and made Adam lord of them all. Then he bade Adam sleep, and drew out a rib from his side, and fashioned it into a woman to be Adam's wife, and he repeated to the woman what he had told Adam before concerning the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Helel lived in the earth at that time, and he came unto the garden and spake unto Adam's wife, concerning the tree of knowledge of good and evil, explaining her that if she and her man would eat of this fruit that they should be like unto the gods, who know good and evil, seeing that Helel himself was one such god who had so learned and had chosen evil in rejecting the counsel of the gods that worship Elohim. So she looked upon the fruit and desired it for food, and ate of it, and gave unto her husband, and he ate. Now Yahweh was wont to walk upon the earth in those days, and would often walk among Adam and his wife in the garden. So he appeared within the garden after they had eaten of the fruit of knowledge, and swiftly they fetched aprons of fig leaf for to cover their sex from Elohim, as so they would from Helel or from the other fallen gods that walked about the garden. And Yahweh spake, Wherefore wear ye these aprons? For it was not a commandment of Elohim. Replied woman, Adam thought it evil that Elohim should look upon my sex, as so we had agreed concerning the earthbound gods. And Adam confessed how they had eaten of the fruit of knowledge, wherefore did Yahweh cast the feet off of Helel and curse him to slither upon the ground as a serpent, and he cast enmity between Helel and the woman, that Helel should bruise her son's foot and he Helel's head, and he cursed the woman that she thereafter should bear great pain whenever bearing children, and he cursed Adam that he should labor greatly for food to eat. And he bade Adam give his wife a name, and he called her Eve, and he also made clothes of skin for them too, and declared that they were become like unto gods in knowing good and evil. And Elohim cast Adam and Eve out of Eden, that they might not discover the tree of life, which was also in the garden, by which they might live forever and so be as the gods are, and he set a great flaming god to guard that garden. 5. Abel the first to die. Now Cain ibn Adam was a tiller of soil, and he was jealous of his brother Abel the shepherd, since Elohim preferred meat to grain in sacrifices. So Yahweh rebuked Cain, saying, Do well and be accepted, or else do not well and yet conquer the sin which lieth at your door desiring to take you because you do not well. But Cain did neither, and instead slaughtered Abel with a stone out in the field to stop him from receiving greater love of Elohim than Cain could manage to receive. He then told Yahweh that he knew not where his brother was, but the spirit of Abel cried forth from the earth as it was spilling, and went down into Sheol. So Yahweh cursed Cain that the ground should not bear her fruit for him, and that all men should call him outlaw, and blessed that he should be protected from manslaughter by means of a sevenfold vengeance, and set a mark upon Cain to warn of this. When Adam found the body of Abel, lying slaughtered, he lamented at the discovery of death, and wondered where was the spirit of his son Abel gone to. And 3 years came to pass, and Adam saw a jackdaw burying a dead chick of its own, so Adam buried his son Abel beneath an hill. Then he begat another son called Seth. From Cain were descended the rulers of the earth in that time, but Seth was he who buried his father Adam when he had died and gone down into Sheol to be with Abel. 6. Prophecy and Priesthood of Enoch. When mankind had multiplied upon the earth, more of the gods above heaven's film, chief among them Samiahs, with 18 captains of tens beneath him, were persuaded to evil, seeing that earthbound women were very good for laying with, so they abandoned their stations and descended upon the top of Mount Hermon, and came down and beget children, which children, being giants, taught every kind of science to mankind, and also taught them to forsake Elohim, and wrought every kind of violence upon mankind and upon beasts and fishes and all creation, for their lust, their greed, and their gluttony could not sate it. And one of the fallen gods, Azazel, taught man to work metal into weapons and armor and to slaughter each other over land and treasure, and over knowledge, and over women. Seeing this, the 4 high gods Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, prayed of Elohim what they were to do, who sent Raphael to bind Azazel in chains and cast him into a great abyss in the midst of the desert, surrounded with great and jagged rocks, to be bound until a time of the great judgment, and who sent Gabriel to cause the giants to fight each one another, till they should all be stricken and lain low, and who sent Michael, after the destruction of the giants were accomplished, to bind Samiahs and his confederates in valleys of the earth also to await the great judgment, after which the earth should be cleansed for all eternity and should bear fruit in abundance and olives of abundant oil, and all men should worship Elohim in perfect piety forever, and who sent Uriel down unto a man who had gone out from the cities to live in contemplation, Enoch ibn Eve the Sethite, telling Enoch to preach against the giants and their wickedness to men and to the fallen gods. Enoch went and told Azazel, Thou shalt have no peace, for a severe sentence hath gone forth against thee to put thee in bonds, and thou shalt have no toleration neither request granted to thee, because of the unrighteousness which thou hast wrought, and because of the works of godlessness and unrighteousness and sin which thou hast shown to men. After this, the four high gods visited Enoch in the night and bore him up into the heavens, and revealed to him all things, the stations prepared for the righteous and those prepared for the wicked, the circuits of the luminaries and the stars, the heavens of burning gods and childlike gods and six-winged ones and brassworms and the holy throne gods, even the face of Yahweh. And they revealed to Enoch the books of life wherein are written the names of all who shall be risen up to paradise on the day of judgment, and taught him all things divine that he might, upon being returned to his home, preach a sermon unto the people and correct them, which teaching is preserved in 3 books which men copy and read today, and that he might perform the liturgy of Elion, and of Iahoueh, and of Chokmah, and administer it unto all mankind. And after he had accomplished these things, the gods carried Enoch away, back unto heaven, never to return, that he did not taste death, whose son Methuselah followed after him as priest. 7. Noah and the Ark. Methuselah's grandson Ner, ibn Lamech, followed after him in turn as priest. And the wife of Ner, called Sapanim, barren all her life, became pregnant at a time when Ner had not recently come into her, which pregnancy she hid, and when she was big with child, and Ner confronted her, she pled with him that she knew not how she had become pregnant. Ner commanded she quit his presence at once lest he strike her down in anger, and at once she fell down at his feet and died. So Ner came unto his brother, Noah, who said unto Ner, By the death of your wife is covered up, thanks to Yahweh, the scandal of her pregnancy, let us go quickly to bury her, and he will cover up also our shame. So they wrapped her in a black shroud and made to bury her, and a son came forth from her, big and walking like a child of 3 years, before she was buried, and sat at her side upon the bed, warning her, which frightened and terrified the brothers. And this child blessed Yahweh, and took from Ner the badge of the priesthood, and held it upon his own chest, and Noah spake, Behold, Yahweh has renewed the covenant of priesthood within our house according to his will. And they called the boy Melchizedek. So was related all of this to the people, and Sapanim was buried before the face of all people, and Melchizedek was reckoned ibn Ner. And when 3 years had come, Uriel came down into the earth and spake unto Ner, The great lawlessness which has come about on the earth among the multitude I shall not tolerate, and behold, I desire now to send out a great destruction onto the earth, and everything that stands on the earth shall perish. But, concerning the child, be not anxious, Ner, because in a short while I shall send my arch-general, Michael, and he will take the child, and put him in the paradise of Eden, in the paradise where Adam was, having heaven open all the time up until when he sinned, and this child will not perish along with those who are perishing in this generation, as I have revealed it, so that Melchizedek will be the priest to all holy priests, and that I will establish him so that he will be the head of the priests to come. And 40 days passed, and the god Michael came unto Ner, and took his son Melchizedek unto the garden of Eden, after which died Ner without any other son. Then Yahweh called Noah and instructed him to build an ark of gopher wood all covered with pitch, and to bring inside specimens of every clean animal together with his wife and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, together with their wives. And the heavens were opened and rain filled all the earth for 150 days and quenched all life. Save for dry caverns below the earth where some of the giants yet remained, and other monsters and dragons besides, and Eden was spared from this flood, and Melchizedek within, and Yahweh himself instructed Melchizedek in the liturgy. And as the flood waters receded, the ark came to rest upon Mount Ararat, and the 3 sons of Noah peopled the earth. 8. Fall of Babel. The sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Elm, Tubal, Meshech, and Teras. Of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. Of Elm, Elisha, Tarshish, Sittim, and Dodanim. And these 14 worshipped Elion, and Iahoueh, and Chokmah, Alrak Elohim. The sons of Shem were Elam, Ashur, Arpachshad, Lud, and Aram. Of Aram were Az, Hul, Gether, and Mash, and Arpachshad, Salah, and Eber. Of Eber Peleg and Iactan. Of Peleg Ru. Of Iactan Almodad, Shalef, Hazarmaveth, Era, Hadoram, Izal, Dikla, Abel, Obimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Iabab. And these 27 worshipped Elion, and Iahoueh, and Chokmah, Alrak Elohim. The sons of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. Of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Raamah, Sabteka, and Nimrod, of Raamah Sheba and Dedan, of Mizraim Ludim, and Emim, Lahabim, Naphtahim, Pathrusim, Casluhim, and Caphtorim, of Canaan Sidon, Heth, Ibus, Amor, Girgaz, Hivai, Ark, Sini, Avad, Thma, and Hamath, and these 30 worshipped Elion-Iahoueh-Chokmah, Al-Rak Elohim, and they regarded Nimrod among them as their king, who was a mighty hunter and builded the city of Babel upon the Euphrates, later called Babylon, in which he and the 70 other Noahites so named did deign to build a tower that should reach unto and through the film of heaven, and they were very vigorous in their work. Wherefore did Elohim curse mankind that they should speak each their own language and be unable to work together at building that tower, and it turned to ruin. This was in Nimrod's chief city, but he also builded the strongholds of Erech, Akkad, and Calneh. Of Shem were begotten all the men of Asia, who dwelt on Euphrates' right side, and across the Zagros and the Gulf there, and also the Lydians, being the sons of Lud, of Ham, all of Africa, and the Canaanites at the edge of Asia, of Iapheth all who dwelt beyond Euphrates left and in Europe. 9. Prophecy of Abram. And the Noahites whose languages were divided continued to beget children after this, each learning the language of his father, but because Eber, Peleg, and Ru lived closely together upon the stream Habor, their languages were like unto each other's, while Iacob ibn Eber and his descendants were scattered far across the southern desert. And Ru's descendants went down river to live in Ur of the Chaldeans, with the children of Aram ibn Shem. Terah ibn Nahor ibn Sarug ibn Ru took his 2 sons, and his grandson Lot whose father had died, out of the land of Ur, downstream of Babel, wherein they dwelt, and went west intending to go into Canaan. And Abram ibn Terah was visited in a dream by Ierusalem, saying, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee, and I will bless thee and make of thee a great nation, and bless thee and make great thy name, and a blessing shalt thou be, and I shall bless them that bless thee and curse him who curseth thee, and in thee shall all nations of the earth be blessed. And Abram's nephew Lot, ibn Haran, went with Abram on this quest. Now the Canaanites did not make Abram one of their own, neither did they believe and worship in the same manner of Abram, so he raised an altar to Yahweh upon a mount and worshipped before continuing southward. A famine drove him across the desert into the land of Mizraim, Ibn Ham, which is called Egypt, and he became very rich in the king's court. Now, the wife of Abram was called Sarai, and was very beautiful but also barren. The king of Egypt inquired whose was she, and Abram said that she was his sister, thinking that the king would slaughter him in order to have her if he knew that she was his wife. So the king took Sarai into his palace, and straightway was beset by plagues of all kinds, because he took Abram's wife Sarai from him, and he bade them go in peace after learning the matter. So Abram returned to the land of Canaan together with his brother and all of their shepherds, and ere long the 2 brothers parted ways peaceably, Lot going to live near the Canaanite town of Sodom, and Abram on the plain of Mamre the Hebronite, and they learned to write using the Canaanite letters. 10. Chedolaomer's war. Now Chedolaomer was king of Elam, and made war on Sodom and the other cities of Canaan, with a large fleet of ships allied to him. The battle was at Sodom's Vale, where the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, his ally, were trapped in slime pits and slaughtered while their confederates fled into the mountains, and Lot, together with his family and his men, was captured by that army, along with the whole treasuries of the 2 cities. When Abram heard this, he raised his own army, and attacked a camp in the night and routed them, slaying Chedolaomer and retrieving all of the loot together with his brother. And afterward, Elohim spake unto Abram that he should go up unto the Mount Ararat and behold the ark of Noah. When Abram was come unto the mount, he met an old man living quietly there in a small house among the wild, whose name was Melchizedek, and who spoke a language not like unto the Noahite languages. And when they 2 discerned how to converse with each other, this hermit told Abram, I have lived here these last 7 years, since the men with whom I dwelt worshipped not the Creator but rather the created gods. So Abram took Melchizedek into his house to be his priest, and they for a season were at the vale of Shaveh. At this time, the new king of Sodom came unto Abram, together with the other confederates, asking that the due portion of booty from the war be returned unto the cities. And Melchizedek blessed the new king and sent messengers about that should come unto Abram also kings or envoys of all the confederate nations against whom they hard warred, of Shinar and of Elisar and of Elam and of the seaborne nations, that all should worship together, and all give tithes, cementing a treaty of peace and brotherhood, and celebrating the liturgy of Melchizedek. And Melchizedek gave unto all of them bread and wine representing the fruit of knowledge and the fruit of life. And Melchizedek said, Blessed be Abram of Elion who owneth heaven and earth, and blessed be Elion who hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And Melchizedek was then called the Prince of Peace, for he delivered peace unto the nations. Sodom then asked of Abram, Return me the people of my city, and thou may keepest the treasure. And Abram said, I have lifted up my hand unto Yahweh, Elion who owneth heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldst say that thou hast enriched Abram, save only that which the young men have eaten in the portion of those among them who have went with me and with my confederates. And Lot was pleased to return to his land. Now Phinehah ibn Magog was in attendance, from the seaborne nations, and he sought out the wisdom of Melchizedek and inquired of him concerning his language, which was unknown in all else the world. So Melchizedek revealed unto Phinehah the manner in which things had been written in the time of Enoch, and gave unto him one of the books of that prophet. And Phinehah studied the writings of Canaan, and those of Mizraim, and those of Iacob, and devised his own manner of writing which he called Oam. And while he was in Egypt, studying his letters, he took for his son, Nell, a wife from among the king's daughters, called Scotta, who bore him a son called Goidel, who dwelt in the land of Egypt. 11. Abram and the three angels. And Abram was called by Yahweh as Abraham after his wife Hagar first bore a son and called him Ishmael, and Sarai was called as Sarah. Abram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born, and in the 13th year thereafter he was called as Abraham, and circumcised himself and Ishmael, as two were circumcised the men of his house and all of their sons thereafter. And as he sat one day worshipping in the door his tent, 3 gods appeared unto him whom he greeted as Elohim, and he bade them rest under a tree and washed their feet and fed them with fine loaves, with meat and with butter and milk. And these gods relayed to Abraham that Sarah, though old, should yet bear him a son, which Abraham believed and Sarah believed not. And the gods looked toward Sodom, and Abraham accompanied them on the road. Abraham stood before Yahweh in prayer, who said, The cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous will I to go down at once and see whether they have done according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not will I know. And they were come unto Sodom, the 3 gods and Abraham, who latter asked them, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Yahweh spake, If I should find 50 righteous men within, then I will spare the whole place for their sake. And Abraham spake, Shouldst thou find 5 lacking from the 50 righteous, shouldst thou then destroy it? And Yahweh would spare the city for 5 and 40, and Abraham spake, Shouldst thou find 5 lacking from the 5 and 40, shouldst thou yet destroy the city? And Yahweh would spare the city for 40 men, and they continued in this fashion till Yahweh spake that he should spare the city for the sake of 10 men, and Abraham asked not again afterward. Then Yahweh departed from Abraham, and Abraham went back unto his home. 12. Execration of Sodom. And 2 gods were come unto Sodom, where Lot was warding the gate, and told them, Behold now, my lords, I pray ye turn in into your servant's house and tarry all the night, and wash your feet, and rise early to be on your way. But the gods elected to abide in the street, which Lot would not have, and impressed that they must abide with him. So Lot took them into his home and prepared them a feast with unleavened bread. And before they drew down to sleep, the Sodomites old and young, from every quarter, pressed all around the house, calling unto Lot that he should turn these visitors out to be lain with. And to appease the Sodomites, Lot offered them his 2 virgin daughters instead to be lain with, which the mob rejected and pressed forward to take Lot himself. The 2 gods opened the door and pulled Lot inside, shutting the door, and they struck blind the men crowding at the door. Then they asked Lot concerning whether he had any family or friends within the city, and bade him gather them together and leave at once. So he went and told all his sons-in-law at once to gather their things and flee, but they believed him not. And at dawn, the 2 gods told Lot to take his wife and his 2 daughters and flee. So those gods escorted Lot and his family out of the city and told them, Flee now, and run for your lives, do not look back, neither linger upon the plain, but flee all the way unto yon mountain lest you be consumed. And Abraham prayed, I cannot escape unto the mountain lest some evil take me and I die. And one of the gods bade him flee instead unto the neighboring town of Zoar and pledged not to destroy it. And the sun was risen when Lot was come unto Zoar, and Yahweh rained fire and brimstone upon Sodom, and also upon Gomorrah, overthrowing those cities and all the plain and all who dwelt therein and all that grew upon it. And Lot's wife looked back in fear and became a pillar of salt. Lot then went carefully unto the mountain above Zoar, together with his virgin daughters, who were distressed that they had no man to husband, since all who were friend and family to Lot were destroyed except for Abram whose sons were altogether young, and so they bade their father drink wine, that he lost all sense and laid with them, and remembered not. The elder daughter bore Moab, and the younger Benami, 13 sons of the circumcision. Now Abraham travelled south unto the land of Gerar and told the people, concerning Sarah, that she was his sister, thinking they would slay him for her, as he had done also in Egypt. So Abimelech the king took Sarah for himself. But before he lay with her, Yahweh revealed to Abimelech in a dream that Sarah was married, and frightened Abimelech against laying with her, for he had heard tell of Sodom and Gomorrah. So Sarah was returned to Abraham, who explained why he had lied, and all the women of Gerar began to bring forth children abundantly from that time. And Sarah also became pregnant soon after, as Yahweh had foretold, and bore a son called Isaac, who was circumcised on the 8th day of his birth when his father was 100 years old. And Ishmael mocked Isaac, wherefore did Sarah bid her husband cast out Hagar and her son, and he sent them away with bread and water into the desert called Beersheba. And when the water was spent, Hagar set her son under a shrub and went apart from him, and arrows shot away, weeping, hoping not to see him die, and Yahweh bade her lift up her son, and she did, and she opened her eyes and beheld a well full of water. Elohim was with the boy, and he grew strong in the desert and shot bows, and Hagar found him a wife out of Egypt. 8 years after this, Elohim appeared unto Abraham, to tempt him by telling him to sacrifice Isaac to him on an altar in the mountains. So Abraham went up the mountain alone with his son, and builded the pyre, and set the boy on it, and raised the knife to strike. But a god cried out and bade him stop in the name of Elohim, that he knew now that Abraham feared him enough to sacrifice his son. And a ram came out of the brush, which Abraham took to make a sacrifice after untying his son. 14. Iacob and Esau. Isaac's twin sons were Esau, the first, and Iacob the second. Esau was a hunter, and very hairy, and caught venison which he would give to Elohim and to Iacob and to others, and one day was sore hungered for want of catch, so that he sold his birthright to Iacob for some of the lentils that Iacob had grown and cooked. Later on, a famine struck the land, and Isaac thought to go down into Egypt, as Abram had done, but Elohim forbade him from it and commanded he stay, and blessed him. Now when Isaac was going to die, and his eyes were dim, he wanted to bless Esau, so he bade Esau go and catch good venison for to feed his father and be blessed. And Iacob went and slew kid goats from the flock and gave them to his mother to cook the way that his father loved, and made himself a bracer of goat's fur and a scarf of the same and wore them. And he brought the meat unto Isaac, saying that he was Esau, and received Esau's blessing in Isaac's kinship. And when Esau was come unto Isaac bearing the same, and the two thus learned that Iacob was now king, Isaac's blessing unto Esau was thus: Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven above. And by thy sword shalt thou live and serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. When the mourning of Isaac was over, Esau decided to kill Iacob, which their mother heard tell of and told Iacob, who latter fled unto the house of Laban, her brother, in Paddan Aram, where he should marry a good wife. And as he was travelling unto Laban, he slept on pillows of stones, and dreamed and beheld a ladder set up on the earth, the top of it reaching to heaven, and the angels of Elohim ascending and descending it. And Yahweh said, I am Yahweh El Abraham, El Isaac, and the land whereon thou liest I will give it unto thy seed, which shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad unto the west and to east, unto the north and to the south, and in thee, and in thy seed, shall all nations of the earth be blessed. And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, and will bring thee again unto this land, for I will not forsake thee until I have done what I have spoken here. And in the morning, Iacob took those stones and made a pillar, and poured oil upon it, and called the place Bethel. Iacob took 2 wives, sisters, daughters from Laban, plus 2 additional wives who were respectively their handmaidens, in exchange for 14 years' labor with board, and begat in them 12 sons, and became quite rich. When the 14 years were done, Iacob sent angels ahead unto Esau bearing gifts, that he should dwell beside Esau in peace, and the angels returned to Iacob that Esau was come with an army. But Iacob sent the gifts over the river with many servants, and he sent his wives and children, also with the servants, over the stream to Esau's land, which is called Edom. And a god from Elohim appeared unto Iacob, and they wrestled all night long, and the god smote the sinew in the hollow of Jacob's thigh, and as dawn was breaking the god said, Let me go, for day is breaking. And Iacob said, I will not let thee go except thou blessest me. And the god blessed Iacob and called him Israel, and bade him never eat of the sinew that shrank upon the hollow of the thigh. And Esau met Iacob peaceably, and would have none of the presents, and let Iacob pass through unto the land of Shalem, where he bought a parcel of land from King Hamor. 15. Sons of Israel. Now Shechem ibn Hamor raped Dinah ibet Israel, and Hamor spake unto Israel, The soul of my son Shechem longeth after your daughter, I pray you give her him to wife, and make your marriages with us that we be friends unto you, and you to us, to which end I shall make whatever gift you ask of me. But the sons of Israel would not let Hamor have their sister, since Hamor had not circumcised himself, and they commanded Hamor have all his men circumcised. So Hamor told unto his people that the nation of Israel would be their perpetual friends and allies, and circumcised his whole city by force, but Shechem refused since he was crown prince. And word reached the sons of Israel that Shechem had refused to circumcise himself, wherefore they rose up and made war, and exterminated the city of all her men, and raped the entirety of the city's women to be their slaves. And the youngest son of Israel, Iosaph, was hated by his brothers and sold into slavery by them in Egypt, to the despair of Isaac. But Iosaph was skilled at discerning dreams, and by this talent came to power as the vizier of Egypt. And he discerned that were coming 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years' famine, so he bade the Egyptians store up as much grain as possible in the plenty to survive the famine. And so great was the famine that men came from all places to buy Egyptian grain, including the brothers of Iosaph. So by a stratagem did Iosaph gain their friendship, and to hear their account of what happened to their brother before revealing his identity. And he sent for his father Iacob Israel and all his house to be brought down to Egypt to survive the famine, and they all prospered greatly. And when his time to die was come, Israel prophesied concerning his 12 sons, what was to be the fate of each. And he prophesied concerning Judah, the 4th son of the elder sister wife, who was the first wife given unto Israel. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise, thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies, thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp, from the prey, my son, thou art gone up, he stooped down, he crouched as a lion, and, as an old lion, who shall rise him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, neither a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be, binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. 16. Exodus of the Israelites. 400 years after these things, the king of Egypt made slaves of all the Israelites that lived in Egypt, and ordered his men to slaughter any newborn Israelite boys, and to take captive any girls. And it so happened that an Israelite woman, the mother of a boy called Aaron of the tribe of Levi in Israel, brought forth another boy and set him in a reed boat down the Nile to safety, and he was raised in the house of the king, as the son of one of his daughters, and was called Moses. This Moses saw a soldier beating an Israelite, and he slaughtered the soldier and buried his body in the desert. The following day, he broke up a fight between 2 Israelites who mocked him, asking if he would slaughter one of them as well. So knowing that it was known what had happened to the Egyptian soldier, Moses fled into the desert and lived with a man called Reuel, who gave unto Moses his daughter Zipporah in exchange that he would tend Reuel's flock at, and about, the Mount Horeb. And upon that mount one day beheld Moses a burning bush, unconsumed though it was all of fire and contained fire, in which appeared Yahweh, who instructed Moses that, through Moses, he would liberate the Israelites and bring them into a land overflowing with milk and honey. Now Moses was halting in his speech, so he tasked his brother Aaron with speaking for him. Went they up to the king and bade him let their people go, and the king refused. And each time he refused, a new and more bitter plague than seen before would rise up, and this happened 10 times. And Moses did contest in magical arts against the wizard of the king and prevailed. And after 10 plagues, Yahweh revealed that he would go through the city upon the full moon, this being that following the first new moon after the spring equinox, and would slaughter the firstborn son in every house that was not washed on its front door with the blood of a blemishless yearling taken into the house upon the 10th day of the month and slaughtered on the evening of that full moon and made into a feast which was eaten fully before the dawn should break, and the bread was to be unleavened. This happened just as Yahweh had said, and so great was the chaos and lament in Egypt that they could not stop the Israelites from leaving, as they did. And Egypt then sent an army of chariots to pursue them unto the Red Sea, where they were trapped. But Moses raised his staff and parted the seas through which the Israelites escaped. And Moses again raised his staff, and the seas returned and drowned all of Egypt's army. And the Goydalites, who yet dwelt in Egypt, having beheld the 10 plagues, and the death of the firstborn of every house, and the destruction of Egypt's army in the Red Sea, were altogether amazed at the power of Yahweh and at the wickedness of Egypt's kings. So they too gathered their things and made an exodus by sea, and they wandered those seas for a long time, sometimes dwelling in the land of the Gomerites, also called Sumerians, and sometimes among the Ashkenazites and among the islands of the Yaonites, and they wandered the earth in this fashion for 22 scores of years. 17. 40 years in the desert. The Israelites made camp at the mount called Sinai, whereupon Moses ascended, and the books concerning these things of which we have spoken and those concerning the laws and rights of the Israelites were revealed to him. And he instituted the law among his people, banning pork and other unclean foods, banning witchcraft, homosexuality, and astrology, and instituting the laws of ritual purity which were practiced for millennia, and Moses slaughtered all who questioned the authority of Elion-Iahoueh-Chokmah. And he builded the Ark of the Covenant, the mercy seat of Yahweh, which the Israelites carried on their backs, and the 12 rods carried by the leaders of the 12 tribes of Israel came together at Moses' bidding, and were set before the tabernacle of Yahweh, that, in the morning, the rod of Aaron, leader of the sons of Levi ibn Israel, had sprouted and put forth buds and blossoms, and yielded ripe almonds. 40 years Moses' people wandered in the desert, during which time they sometimes rose up together to question the authority of Moses, that they should be happier in Egypt than in the desert. At one such time, at a place called Meribah, they were without water, and were thinking even to mutiny, but Elohim told Moses to command a rock to bring forth its water. Moses sinned in that he did not command the rock, but struck it, and it indeed brought forth water, and the whole army was pacified. At another time, the Israelites sent messengers unto Balak the king of Moab, whose court wizard was called Balaam ibn Beor, and Balak bade Balaam to curse the Israelites, but he would not, for Balaam saw a vision of Elohim and spake, How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel, as the valleys are they spread forth, as gardens by the riverside, as the trees of lign aloes which Yahweh hath planted, as the cedar trees beside the waters. He shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters, and his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. And Balak was angered at this, and bade Balaam to change his prophecy into a curse. But Balaam could not do this thing, for he had seen the vision from Elohim, and he said, I shall see him, but not now, I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise forth from Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Sheth. And Edom shall be a possession, Seir also a possession for his enemies, and Israel shall do valiantly. Out of Jacob shall come he that shall have dominion, and shall destroy him that remaineth in the city. 18. Israel conquers Canaan. Now in this time that the Israelites were wandering, a very great war was had between the Elishahites and the other Ammonites, as is related in the books of Homer. And when the city of Elion was lain waste, Aeneas the Elishahite fared far to the west, and his descendants founded the city of Rome. And in this time also the sons of Ashkenaz and the sons of Togarmah spread about the cold and forested and misty countries which lie north and west of the Ammonites, for they too were disturbed by the destruction of Elion, and sought their own countries. The Togarmahites went to the farthest western reaches of the world, unto the great ocean of Atlas, and unto the great isles lying therein. And the men who remained among the Yaelnites learned to write using the Canaanite letters, for the men of Sidon were excellent seafarers and traders. And when at last were come the Israelites, after 40 years, to the river Eden and to see the land of Canaan beyond, Elohim told Moses that he must die and not cross over into the promised land because he had sinned at Meribah. And he was buried at an unmarked place, and was gathered to his ancestors into Abraham's bosom in Sheol. The kingship of the Israelites then passed to Ieshua, under whose rule they exterminated all of the Canaanites and conquered their land, and builded their capital at Jerusalem, that is, the peace of Ibus, the city of the Ibusites, round about the hill stronghold called Sion, just next to that called Calvary, under which were buried Abel and Adam. They divided the land amongst their 12 tribes, one each from 10 of Israel's sons, plus 2 from the 2 sons of Joseph called Manasseh and Ephraim, and the sons of Levi ibn Israel were landless priests. And when Ieshua was come to death, he decreed there should be no successor but the Israelites should live without kings, so that whensoever strife or war should come upon the sons of Israel that they should raise among them a judge who would lead them for a time and afterward withdraw to his private life. 19. Judges of Israel. One such judge did rise in this time, when the Midianites had come to sack and oppress all Israel, called Gideon ibn Ioash, who vowed unto Elohim, If thou wilt save Israel by my hand as thou hast said, behold I will set a fleece of wood upon the floor, and if the dew be on the fleece only and it be dry upon all the earth beside, then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by mine hand as thou hast said. So Gideon fought his war, and saved his, and retired from leadership, and in time the Ben-Hammonites came to lay Israel waste and were beaten back under the leadership of Iephah, who prayed unto Elohim and vowed, that should he win the field, that on returning to his home and eyeing his house, that he would sacrifice whatever first came out of his door, which, it so happened, was his virgin daughter, and Iephah kept his vow. The next war was against the Casluhites, known better to us as the Philistines, who had gone up over the sea and settled to the west of Jerusalem, and the hero of this war was Samson, who from birth was forbidden wine, and forbidden to cut his hair, and forbidden to handle corpses, which vow, called the Nazarite vow, made him altogether powerful. Now there was a great lion about Philistia, which slaughtered many Israelites, and Samson and this lion got into attack, which hero got his hands up round the lion's jaw and ripped him apart, casting the head onto the ground where a hive of bees set up to make honey, for Samson was the strongest man who ever has lived on earth. And the Philistines were so afeard of him that they captured a stronghold of 3,000 of the tribe of Judah ibn Israel, and demanded against the lives of all of them that they deliver Samson to them in fetters, which was done. And while Samson was walking along with his captors, he looked down on the ground and saw an old jawbone, so he stretched forth his hand, tearing the ropes from his arms as if they were a thread, and slaughtered 10,000 Philistines with the jawbone. Now Delilah was a woman, fine and fair, who had good looks, eye nose, and coal-black hair. Delilah gained old Samson's mind, for when first he saw this woman, she looked so fine. Delilah climbed up on old Samson's knee and said, Tell me where your strength lies, if you please. And she spoke so kind, she talked so fair, that Samson said, Delilah, you cut off my hair, you can shave my head as clean as my hand, and my strength become as natural as any other man. So as he slept, she shore the hair of his head. And he was captured and made a slave of the Philistines at their temple of the fallen god Dagon, who tormented him by making him perform for them as a fool and as a wrestler against beasts and foreign slaves. But when somewhat of his hair had grown back from his time in prison, as he was being made to entertain the Philistines, and was chained by his arms to 2 pillars, he prayed Elohim for strength and ripped the pillars apart, bringing the whole temple down upon the assembled Philistines, killing them with Samson. 20. Inheritance of Elimelech. In this time, Elimelech the Ephrathite of Bethlehem in the land of Judah, of the tribe of Judah, went out into the land of the Moabites together with his wife and his 2 sons, and died there, and his sons Kilian and Machlon married Moabite women called Orpah and Ruth, and both of these sons died without having begotten sons. So their mother, called Naomi, began back to the land of Judah with these wives accompanying, and at the frontier, Naomi bid them both return unto the houses of their mothers. But Ruth would not go back unto the land of the Moabites, but insisted she come to dwell with Naomi in Bethlehem, and arrived there at the start of the harvest. And as Ruth gleaned, she took to fancy Boaz the kinsman of her late husband, in whose barn she bade him let her glean, and who bade her sit at table with his maidens. The next evening, Ruth crept into the hall as Boaz was sleeping after his meal, and she uncovered his feet, and she lay at his feet till he awoke, and she bade him cast his skirt over about her to say that she was his. Replied Boaz, There cometh tomorrow another kinsman, closer to my clone than I, let him have you if he will, or else I shall. And came that kinsman, and Boaz related that the estate of Elimelech was for sale by Naomi, and that man that he who buys the estate should therein also buy Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Naomi's late son. And the kinsman would not buy the estate, for he would not beget sons by a Moabite. Therefore Boaz bought the estate in Ruth and begat in her a son and called his name Obed. 21. Prophecy of David. And continued the sons of Israel under their judges until the time of Saul, who became a king unto Israel, when the people demanded Samuel the judge, that he raise a king and anoint him. Saul was succeeded by his rival, David ibn Jesse, ibn Obed, a musician who composed most of the Hebrew psalms, and when men would make pilgrimage to Jerusalem, they would sing a certain 15 of these psalms as they ascended the temple. David was elevated to greatness in a battle against Goliath ibn Gath, one of the giants who survived the ancient flood, and Saul was altogether jealous of David and sought that he be killed, and while David was in flight from the king, he hid inside of a cave and came upon a chance opportunity to slaughter Saul, as Saul was relieving himself in the cave, but David had mercy on his persecutor and did not slaughter him. David builded a temple to house the Ark of the Covenant, and the voice of Elohim told him, When thy days be fulfilled and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. Should he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men, and with the stripes of the children of men, but my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul whom I put away before thee, and thine house and thy kingdom shall be established forever before thee, thy throne shall be established forever. 22. David's Psalm of Repentance. After this, David was at Jerusalem, and his people were making war with the Ammonites, and from his tower, David spied a beautiful woman at Bath, and inquired who she was, and she was Bathsheba ibn Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite, one of David's lieutenants. So David had Bathsheba brought before him, and begat a son in her whose name she called Solomon, and he commanded secretly that Uriah be set at the fore of a hot battle and be abandoned, that he be struck down upon the field. And a wise man called Nathan was then come up to David's court, inspired by Ierusalem, and told David that he had sinned gravely in doing this thing, and together they prayed for the visitation of Chokmah upon them, and upon the kingdom, and David prayed thusly, Have mercy upon me, O Elohim, according to thy great mercy, according to the multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgressions, wash me thoroughly from iniquity and cleanse me of my sin, for I acknowledge mine iniquity, and my sin is ever before me. Against thee only have I sinned and done this evil in thy sight, that thou mightst be justified when thou speakest and prevail when thou judgest. Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sins did my mother bear me. Behold, thou hast loved truth, the hidden and secret things of thy Chokmah hast thou made manifest unto me. Thou shalt sprinkle me with hyssop, and I shall be made clean. Thou shalt wash me, and I shall be made whiter than snow. Thou shalt make me to hear joy and gladness. The bones that be humbled, they shall rejoice. Turn thy face away from my sins, and blot out all mine iniquities. Create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from thy presence, and take not thy Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of thy salvation, and with thy governing spirit establish me. I shall teach transgressors thy ways, and the godless shall turn back unto thee. Deliver me from blood guilt, O Elohim, O thou Elohim Ishuati. My tongue shall rejoice in thy righteous. O Yahweh, thou shalt open my lips, and my mouth shall declare thy praise. For if thou hadst desired sacrifice, I had given it. With whole burnt offerings thou shalt not be pleased. A sacrifice unto Elohim is a broken spirit. A heart that is broken and humbled Elohim will not despise. Do good, O Yahweh, in thy good pleasure, unto Zion, and let the walls of Jerusalem be builded. Then shalt thou be pleased with the sacrifice of righteousness. with oblation and with whole burnt offerings, then shall they offer bullocks upon thine altar. 23. Reign of Solomon. Solomon succeeded his father to the kingship, and builded a much greater temple than David's by the aid of a ring given him by a god, which gave him power to bind and loose the earthbound gods, and also the elements, by the use of magical seals. He sealed 72 such gods in a brazen jar within the temple, and these arts, and instructions in their performance, are recorded in the books of Solomon. In this great temple were performed liturgies to Elion-Iahoueh-Chokmah, to the Trinity, one in essence and undivided. Solomon received a foreign queen, Micaiahu of Sheba ibn Raamah, who was come unto his house, having heard tell of the splendor of Jerusalem from her merchants, and worshipped in Solomon's temple. Micaiahu drank heartily at a banquet, during the ceremony of which she beheld the king, borne aloft upon his portable couch, upholstered on the cedar of Lebanon, surrounded by 60 mighty warriors, all bearing swords, and Solomon bade her tarry in his palace, swearing to do her no insult, only that she swear in turn not to pilfer anything of his from the palace. And she awoke in the midst of night, thirsting grievously, and stepped down into the courtyard to drink some water from one of Solomon's wondrous fountains, whereupon she found Solomon there, not on his couch, but worshipping Elohim in front of the fountain, and she said, My lord, let me forsake mine vow to you that thou mightst forsake thine of me. Micaiahu returned to her home country, in the land of Cush, and bore Solomon a son, and called his name Menelik, and when he came of age, Menelik was sent unto Solomon his father to learn from him. Now Solomon desired that Menelik follow after him in kingship, but Menelik desired rather to be king in his mother country, so Solomon anointed him as king of Sheba in the land of Cush, and taught him to perform liturgies and to anoint kings, and sent him back unto his mother's home. The high priest in that time was called Zadok, and his son took it upon himself to honor the wish of King Solomon, that Menelik should be the true king thereafter, in secretly building a replica of the Ark of the Covenant, and replacing the real Ark with the replica by stealth, and stealing away the real Ark with Menelik's entourage back into Sheba in the land of Cush. King Solomon composed most of the Israelite proverbs, and wrote many books on sciences of all kinds, and his wife Micaiahu composed the great theological song in his name, sending the manuscript up unto him for translation into the Hebronic. 24. Ministry of Eliiah. A prophet called Ahijah told Jeroboam ibn Nebat that he should be king instead of Solomon, which, Solomon learning, caused Jeroboam to flee unto the court of Shishak, king of Egypt. Solomon died, and left his kingdom in the land of Israel to his son Rehoboam, at which time returned Jeroboam unto the land of Israel, to plead that the new king might lower the taxes upon the 10 tribes living north of Jerusalem, which request was refused. Wherefore did those 10 tribes made Jeroboam their king, and parted ways with Jerusalem, and with the southern tribes of Judah and Benjamin who were loyal to Rehoboam. Now the kingship of the northern kingdom was passed from tribe to tribe, and there came a king Omri who let his son Ahab to marry Isabel, a daughter of Sidon, who thereby convinced Ahab and his people to worship her god called Baal, bringer of thunders and rains and dews. There rose at this time an Israelite called Eliiah who condemned this idolatry, saying that Yahweh is Rak Elohim, the only true God, and a drought of 3 years began at that time. And the voice of Yahweh instructed Eliiah that he should flee the wrath of Ahab into the wilderness, to a brook where ravens fed him for a tide, till the brook dried up. He came then to an widow in the town of Zarephath in Sidon's land, and begged food of her, who had not enough to feed her son. But Eliiah told her, The jar of flour shall not be used up, neither the jug of oil run dry, till the day in which sendeth Yahweh his rain upon the land. And she fed him, and it was so concerning the supply of food, that the jar of flour was not used up, neither ran dry the jug of oil, in the time that Eliiah tarried with her. Now the widow's son grew ill and died, and the widow blamed Eliiah, who said, Yahweh el-Shali, hast thou brought tragedy even on this widow who I am staying with, by causing her son to die? Then he stretched himself out over the boy 3 times, and cried out, Yahweh el-Shali, let this boy's life return to him. And the boy was resurrected from the dead, by which token his mother knew that Eliiah was a true prophet, and that Yahweh is Rak Elohim. Now the time was come for Eliiah to return to his home country, and on the road he passed by Obadiah the steward of Ahab's court, who told Eliiah that he had helped 100 prophets to hide from Ahab. So came Eliiah up, and challenged the priests of Baal to make an altar and let Baal set it on fire, and that he would do the same. So there stood the 2 altars, one to Baal, and the other to Yahweh, and through the prayers of Eliiah, the altar to Yahweh burst into flames, and that of Baal did not, and the people did as Eliiah bade in exterminating all of the priests of Baal. Thus was defeated the heresy of Ahab and Jezebel. And Ahab was sore angry about this. For what cause did Eliiah flee unto the Mount Horeb? And he stood upon the mount in the presence of Elohim, who instructed Eliiah to find Elisha ibn Shaphat in the town of Abel-Meholah, to be his apprentice. And Eliiah found this Elisha plowing with 12 yoke, went over to him and cast his pall over the shoulders of Elisha, investing him with prophecy. Elisha tarried only long enough to slaughter 1 yoke and boil it upon the wood of the plough to prepare a farewell feast for his father, and his mother, and his friends, before following after Eliiah on the road to Damascus. Afterward, the 2 prophets brought Ahab unto repentance, and ministered also unto Ahaziah ibn Ahab, who did not repent and who died from his wickedness. After this, Eliiah prophesied that he would be taken up into heaven and would not taste death, and Elisha believed this, and was present when it did occur just as had been foreseen, and he received the pall of prophecy which Eliiah cast down to him as he was being raised into the air. 25. Prophecy of Ioel. There was afterward a prophet among the Judahites called Ioel ibn Pethuel, and he prophesied concerning an invasion of his country which would be repelled by the army of Yahweh. And he said, And it shall come to pass afterward, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions, and also upon the servants, and upon the handmaidens in those days, will I pour out my spirit, and I will show wonders in the heavens, and in the earth, blood, and fire, and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before cometh the great and terrible day of Yahweh. And it shall come to pass, that whosoever shall call on the name of Yahweh shall be delivered, for in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as Yahweh hath said, and in the remnant whom Yahweh shall call. And Ioel also said, The sun and moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Yahweh also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But Yahweh will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So shall you know that I am Yahweh Shalechel dwelling in Zion, mine holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her any more. And it shall come to pass, in that day, that the mountains shall drop down new wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and all the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters, and a fountain shall come forth of the house of Yahweh, and shall water the valley of Sittim. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom a desolate wilderness, for their violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. But Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for Yahweh dwelleth in Zion. 26. Micaiahu prophesies concerning the Eschaton. In the reign of Jotham ibn Uzziah, in the 10th generation from Solomon, there came Micaiahu of the town of Morsheth in Judah, prophesying judgment against the nations, and against the false prophets, and that in the last days it shall come to pass, that the mountain of the house of Yahweh shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it, and many nations shall come and say, Come ye, and let us go up unto the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of Eliasaph, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem, and he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more, but they shall sit, every man, under his vine, and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid. For the mouth of Yahweh Sabaoth hath spoken it, for all people will walk, every one of them, in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of Yahweh Hailshlanu for ever and ever. In that day, saith Yahweh, will I assemble her that halteth, and gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted, and I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast far off a strong nation, and Yahweh shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even for ever. And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion, the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. And, Arise and thresh, O daughter of Sion, for I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thine hoofs brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people, and I will consecrate their gain unto Yahweh, and their substance unto Adonai-Eretz. Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. He hath lain siege against us. They shall smite the judge of Israel with a rod upon the cheek. But thou, O Bethlehem Ephrat, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall come he forth, unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting. And in this time, Gallim, king of the wandering Goidelites, arrived in that far western country where dwelt the Tubalites, upon a large country jutting into the sea on all sides, full of mountains and very rich, which was called Espain, for the many conies and hyraxes that were to be found there. And Gallim steered his ships round the outer part thereof, and around to the far corner, in the northwest, and builded a town called Brigantia, after Ibn Gallim, called Brayagon. Brayagon inherited the kingship, and builded a tower within his city from which he spied, through his glass, looking north, an isle green and shining like unto the emerald stone, to which country he took his men and obtained kingdoms therein, and the Togamahites who were living already on that isle called the newcomers Spains, meaning soldiers from Spain, and held society with them. 27. First prophecy of Isaiahu. Among the tribe of Judah lived the prophet Isaiahu, who foresaw that Elohim would punish and judge his people for abandoning him, and he foresaw, in like manner as Micaiahu had, that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it, and many people shall go and say, Come ye and let us go up unto the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of Eliasaph, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem, and he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. And, in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, We will eat our own bread, and wear our own apparel, only let us be called by thy name, to take away our reproach. In that day shall the branch of Yahweh be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth excellent and comely for those who are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass, that he left in Sion, and he that remaineth in Jerusalem, shall be called holy, every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem, when Yahweh shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Sion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment, and by the spirit of burning. And Yahweh will create upon every dwelling place a Mount Sion, and upon her assemblies, a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon all glory shall be a defense, and there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow, in the daytime, from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a cover from storm and rain. And Isaiah foresaw many other things besides, which are written in full in his book. And Isaiah was cleansed by a live coal borne in silver tongs by a burning god, pressed unto his lips to take away his iniquity and to purge his sin. 28. Isaiah prophesies to Ahaz. At this time came up Pul and Tilgath-Pilneser, kings of Assyria, with their armies, and defeated the northern kingdom of the 10 tribes, destroying and plundering their towns and taking them captive into their own country. Afterward, Yahweh spake through the mouth of Isaiah, and told King Ahaz ibn Iotham, who would not ask of neither tempt Yahweh concerning signs of what to come, Hear ye now, O house of David, is it a small thing for you to weary men, but will you weary Shaleel as well? Therefore Yahweh himself shall give ye a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and to choose the good. For before that child shall know to refuse the evil, and to choose the good, the land that thou abhorrest shall be forsaken of both her kings. And Isaiah continued to prophesy unto Ahaz concerning the destruction of Judah's enemies, and concerning this Emmanuel he said, Unto us a child is born, unto us a son given, and the government of the world shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Al-Sagiv, Ho'olam-Hoseh, Everlasting Father, Sar-Hasalam, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace shall there be no end, upon the throne of David, and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment, and with justice, from henceforth and forevermore. The zeal of Yahweh Sabaoth will perform this. 29. Destruction of Samaria. And in this time was a 3-year siege upon Samaria, after which Sargon the king of Assyria took captive all of the men therein, and Samaria was thereafter considered foreign to Edom Judah in the south, that the men who settled therein afterward were not considered to be any longer of the house of Israel, for they intermarried and had society with non-Israelites. Isaiahu then prophesied unto Hezekiah ibn Ahaz concerning the coming of a king of the east, called Cyrus, who would be Yahweh's Messiah, whose right hand I have holden to subdue nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings to open before him the 2-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. I will go before thee, and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass, and cut in sunder the bars of iron, and I will give thee the treasures of darkness, and the hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest know that I am Yahweh el-Israel. 30. Heresy of Iosiahu. King Iosiahu, of the 15th generation from Solomon, was Ibn Amon, Ibn Manasseh, Ibn Hezekiah, Ibn Ahaz, and he discovered a portion of Moses' revelations that had been lost to his ancestors. On the basis of this scripture which he had found, tore he down the altars to fallen gods which were to be found in many places in the land of Israel, and forbade he making sacrifices to Yahweh in altars outside of the temple in Jerusalem. Iosiahu did not understand the doctrine of the Trinity, and worshipped Yahweh alone, blasphemously supposing Chokmah to be a creature, and Yahweh to be the one and same divine person as Elion. And because of this, Iosiahu destroyed the sacred images of Yahweh, and believed that no man had seen him with his eyes, and because of the heresy of Iosiahu was the destruction of Israel made imminent. In the 13th year of his reign, a prophet Jeremiah ibn Hilkiah descended from the northern kingdom, together with a scribe called Baruch, preaching repentance unto the king, and unto all Israel, and he prophesied that Judah would fall, and the son of Iosiahu denied proper burial, and that afterward Yahweh would restore Zion, as a virgin newly led forth upon the paths of life, by a Messiah king from the east. Jeremiah prophesied a mighty battle between the destroying mountain of Babylon and an army of many nations. Set ye up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the nations, prepare the nations against her, call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, of Minni, and of Ashkenaz, and appoint a captain against her, and cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars, prepare against her the nation of the kings of the Midianites, and the captains thereof, and of all the rulers thereof, and of all the land of their dominion, and the land shall tremble in sorrow, for every purpose of Yahweh shall be performed against Babylon, for to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant. 31. Daniel and the 3 youths. Now Nebuchadnezzar was king of Babylon, and was mighty to defeat the armies of Egypt, and made war to destroy the power of Israel, and to conquer Jerusalem, and took captive her king, the young Iaconiah ibn Jehoiachim ibn Ioshiahu, whose father had been killed during the siege and denied proper burial, as foretold, along with much of his treasure and choice men for to be courtiers to Nebuchadnezzar, among them a young man called Daniel, who refused the king's meat but fasted, and ate only lentils and vegetables. This Daniel gained the favor of Nebuchadnezzar in interpreting his dreams, as his forebear Iosaph had done for the king of Egypt, for the king dreamt of a stone cut out of a mountain, not by human hands, which beat to pieces the gods wrought of earthenware, and of metal, and of stone. But certain wizards persuaded Nebuchadnezzar not to trust the 3 companions of Daniel, whom had he set to govern Babylon, because they would not bow down and worship the God of Nebuchadnezzar, but only Elion-Iahoueh-Chokmah, Elohim alone. So the king had these 3 youths cast into a fiery furnace, and, praying, they were at first not harmed, and the king had more fuel set into the fire, that it became so hot, and the flames so great that the 3 wizards standing by the door were burned, and died soon after from their wounds. But in the midst of the furnace were these 3 youths protected as by a mist, and in wind, that they burned not, and they praised Elohim, saying, Blessed art thou, O Yahweh Elohim, and to be praised and exalted above all forever. Blessed art thou in the temple of thine holy glory, and to be praised and glorified above all forever. Blessed art thou that beholdest the depths, and sittest upon the childlike gods, and to be praised and exalted above all forever. Blessed art thou on the glorious throne of thy kingdom, and to be praised and glorified forever. Blessed art thou in the firmament of heaven, and above all to be praised and glorified forever. O all you works of Yahweh, bless ye Yahweh, praise and exalt him above all forever. And they continued on in this fashion, as recorded in the longer book of Daniel. And as they so exalted Yahweh, he appeared among them, and was seen by Nebuchadnezzar, who promptly freed the young men, and made them more powerful over Babylon than they had been before. 32. Ministry of Ezekiel. In the 5th year after Daniel and his friends had been taken to Babylon, Ezekiel ibn Buzi beheld 4 living creatures from out of a cloud of fire, and in whirlwind of the north, each having 4 faces, namely of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle, and 4 wings, and the hands of a man, with the hooves of calves and burnished brass in their colour, moving in straight lines without turning. And he beheld flaming wheels full of eyes round about them, and the creatures held aloft the firmament like a great sapphire stone, which was the throne of Elohim, and he worshipped it, and was sent by Elion-Iahoueh-Chokmah to preach unto the Israelites from the words of the scroll which Elohim gave Ezekiel to eat, which was sweet like honey in his mouth, and in his belly. And Ezekiel went out into the street, and lived there, and cooked his bread on a fire fueled of dung, and his bread was of wheat and barley and beans and lentils and millet and vetch, all mixed together in one vessel, and in this fashion he lived for 390 days, and drank only water besides the bread which he ate. And Ezekiel prophesied the complete destruction of Jerusalem because of her iniquities and sins, and the judgment of all the nations besides, and he saw that he, being wise and being gifted with the knowledge of Elohim, was responsible to teach exactly that wisdom, and no other, unto all who should listen, and unto all who should not listen, and to care for their souls with greater regard than for his own, for that, on the day of judgment, he should be found liable for every sin which went unrebuked, and that the sinner should be found liable for every sin which was rebuked by the pastor Ezekiel. 33. Destruction of Jerusalem. Iconiah died in captivity, and his uncle Mattaniah was made king of Israel by Nebuchadnezzar, who also changed his name to Zedekiah. Against the bidding of the prophets Jeremiah and Baruch, this Zedekiah betrayed Nebuchadnezzar, and allied with Hophra the king of Egypt. So came Nebuchadnezzar again unto Jerusalem, together with the men of Edom, and every worst woe befell that city, which drank the cup of Alion's fury unto the dregs. And he pursued Zedekiah unto the plains of Jericho, and captured him, and brought him to Riblah, and exterminated his sons, and cast chains about him, and dragged him off to die in captivity. Then Nebuchadnezzar ordered the complete plunder and destruction of Jerusalem, including the temple, as Ezekiel had foreseen, and the taking of all the Israelites into Babylon, though a few country dwellers were permitted to stay, to raise vines and sheep under the laws of Babylon. Many of the holy books were lost, and the children of Israel were commanded by their captors to entertain them. And this is the song concerning these things. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, yea, and wept when we remembered Sion. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof, for there, they who carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that laid us waste of us mirth, saying, Sing us one of the songs of Sion. How shall we sing Yahweh's song in a strange land? Should I forget thee, O Jerusalem? Let my right hand forget her cunning. Should not I remember thee? Let my tongue cleave unto the roof of my mouth. Should I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy? Remember, O Yahweh, the children of Esau in the day of Jerusalem, who said, Raise, raise, to the foundation thereof, O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us, and happy he that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the rocks. 34. Ezekiel sees the new temple and the river of life. In the 14th year after the destruction of Jerusalem, Ezekiel was taken up in the hand of Yahweh, and set upon a high mountain in the land of Israel. And a brazen god showed unto the prophet the building of a new temple, and bade him measure out all the gates and porches and altars and walls thereof. And he showed to Ezekiel the eastern gate of the sanctuary, and the voice of Yahweh told the prophet, This gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened, and no man shall enter in by it, because Yahweh Israel hath entered in by it. It shall be shut, it is for the prince who shall sit in it to eat bread before Yahweh. He shall enter by way of the porch of that gate, and shall go out by way of the same. And having beheld and measured more of this holy temple, Ezekiel was returned by that brazen god unto the eastern gate again, and beheld waters running out from the right side thereof, and measured thousands of cubits down that stream till come 3,000 cubits, and the water was too deep to pass over, and the whole of the stream was beset with many good trees. And the god said unto Ezekiel, These waters issue out toward the east country, and go down into the desert and into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed. And it shall come to pass, that everything that liveth, which moveth whithersoever the rivers shall come, shall live, and there shall be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters shall come thither, for they shall be healed, and everything shall live whither the river cometh. And this temple which Ezekiel saw is the same as the city wrought of gold and all manner of precious stones, suspended within the sea of crystal and the sea of fire, which was foreseen also by Enoch, which is called New Jerusalem, and shall be the throne of Elohim and fortress of Zion unto ages of ages. So wrote the prophets. 35. Daniel and Balshazzar. Nebuchadnezzar was succeeded by his son Balshazzar, who feasted and worshipped his gods using the treasures looted from Jerusalem, whereupon rose the fingers of a man's hand and wrote strange writings upon the plaster of his palace wall, reading Mene Mene Tekel Upharsin. And Belshazzar sent for Daniel, the renowned wizard, to interpret the writing, which interpretation was, Elion hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it, thou art weighted in the balances and found wanting, thy kingdom is divided and given unto the Midianites and the Elamites. And that very night, Belshazzar was slain in his sleep, and very swiftly his kingdom was conquered by Darius the Mede, called Astyages by the Greeks, who made Daniel the chief prince of Babylon. This Darius issued a law, at the request of his court, that any who should pray of anyone other than Darius should be fed to lions. So this fate was visited upon Daniel, since he kept on praying to Elohim, who also kept Daniel from the lions and tamed him. Seeing this, Darius decreed that all in his kingdom should worship Elohim. 36. Daniel prophesies concerning the Eschaton. And in the time of Belshazzar and of Darius, Daniel had visions concerning the last day, wherein all beasts, and all kings, and all men and gods are set before the fiery judgment seat of Elion, who unto Yahweh declareth dominion and glory and the kingdom of all people, and of all nations, and of all languages. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the purest wool, his throne like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him, 1,000 thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. And then the god Gabriel confirmed the meaning of this thing to Daniel, saying, Behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed, the end shall be, the ram which thou sawest, having 2 horns, are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Gracia, and the great horn, that is between his eyes, is the first king, now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it. 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance, understanding dark sentences, shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper, and shall practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy men, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against Sar-Sal-Sarim, against the prince of princes, but shall be broken without hand. And among the prophecies of Daniel, concerning things which were to come, was this, And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against Elohim, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that what is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard our avatar, neither the desire of women, neither shall he regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a god whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, and with silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds, with a strange god whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. 37. Second temple built at Cyrus' command. And as Daniel had foretold to Belshazzar, the kingdom of Darius Astyages was conquered by Cyrus the Elamite, who freed the Yudah-Hittite, and sent them back into their land with money and workmen to rebuild and rededicate their temple, and Daniel ministered unto him, and showed him the foolishness of worshipping idols, proving that it was the priests and their families, who secretly stole the food, and not the idols eating it. And he also destroyed a dragon that the Persians worshipped by feeding it a kind of cake that caused its stomach to burst. And many enemies of Israel came up to Jerusalem, asking Zerubbabel, the chief among those sent to rebuild, that they might aid in rebuilding, and might worship with them. which Zerubbabel refused. For this reason, many folk in the country caused trouble to the Judahites, and their building was slow and delayed, and sometimes censured by the king's government, all the time until the reign of Darius ibn Artaxerxes, the 8th king to come after Cyrus, when had come 100 plus 25 years since Cyrus had freed the Judahites and sent them home, when Haggai and Zechariah were prophesying, when the first Passover was held in proper form after many years, and the second temple was dedicated. In this time, scribes refused any more to speak and to write the name Yahweh, since they were unworthy, and all the names of El were put together with Adonai, Lord, which they called their God, and other times called him Hashem, meaning the name, but refused to speak his name, since they knew they would do so only in vain, which fact was prophesied unto them because that they had forgotten the Trinity. And Zechariah foresaw a candlestick with 7 lamps atop 7 pipes, atop the tabernacle of Yahweh, with 2 olive trees flanking, giving oil for the light of the world. 38. Maccabean Revolt. So it happened that Alexander the king of Macedon, of the house of Elion-Iahoueh-Chokmah, conquered the whole of Asia unto the Ganges, and conquered Egypt, and was regarded as king of the whole world, and was king over the Israelites, and at his death was his kingdom divided among his generals, that Ptolemy ibn Lagus was king over Israel, and over Egypt, and Seleucus over Babylon and Chaldea. And Ptolemy ibn Ptolemy was inspired by Chokmah, that he sought to know what was the teaching of the Judahites concerning their God, and asked that they translate their scriptures into the Elishaic, that is the Hellenic, language. And because there were diversities of opinion concerning how to render certain Ebronite words, which were written without their vowels, but instead it was the tradition of the people to remember the vowels and not to write them, into the Elishaic, therefore did Ptolemy hire full 72 translators, 6 from each tribe of Israel, who were yet to be found in dispersion, including 6 Levites and, in turn, 3 Manassites and 3 Ephraimites, and put them in separate rooms for to translate the scriptures, and to compare what they had decided separately to translate. And when they were each come to translate the prophecy of Isaiahu, 71 of them, without hesitation, wrote, "An virgin shall conceive and bear a child." But one of the translators, called Simeon, hesitated and said to himself, "Cannot this be construed to refer to a young woman, newlywed, and not an virgin?" And the god Gabriel appeared there, in his cell, and told Simeon, "She who shall conceive shall be an virgin, and you shall yet live to see this come to pass." And Simeon wrote, "Virgin." And there are many other translations, which were made in this thing, which were prophetic, and which came to pass, which were denied then, and afterward, by certain rabbis among the Judahites. And the sons of Seleucus made war with the Antigonites, one among them called Antiochus Epiphanes conquered Sion, and plundered her temple, and forbade on pain of death the practice of the Israelite religion, forbade circumcision and the refusal of pork and of other forbidden foods. So Judas Maccabeus fomented a revolt with the aid of the army of Rome, to the west of the Hellenes, and threw the Hellenizers out of the temple, and purified and rededicated the temple by burning the 7-lamped candlestick for 7 days plus an 8th, despite having filled only enough oil for 1 day. Such was the miracle that Elohim wrought at that time. 39. Herod conquers Israel. Now the fame of the Judahites waxed altogether great because of the rededication of the temple, and of the victory that they had won over Antiochus, and their scriptures came to be known by learned men across all the world, even unto the furthest reaches of Ashkenaz, and of Togarmah and Goidel. And when the prophecies concerning Messiah ibn David were heard by the sons of Togarmah, and of Goidel, those who resided together upon the sea isles, they rejoiced greatly, forasmuch as it was remembered of the Goidelites what was prophesied in ancient times by Enoch concerning the day of judgment, and they exalted, and praised, and worshipped Elion in their native tongues, and they taught within the schools of their native priesthood that there would, in the fullness of time, be born a king unto the nation of Israel in the east, which nation, being divinely chosen from the womb of nations to suffer, and to struggle, and to be persecuted, to be the glory of Yahweh and the princes of his holy Mount Zion, would soon after come to be destroyed of their earthly power, that this king should be Ibn Elion and Sar Hassalam, that is, the Son of the Most High and the Prince of Peace, and that in him would be declared the salvation of all the nations and the universal brotherhood of man. And when Wotan the Ashkenazite had heard the Psalms of David concerning the suffering of he whose advent was thought imminent, Chokmah came upon him, that he climbed a great ash tree, and hung himself therefrom, and had his chief man pierce his side with Photon's spear and leave it there to bleed for 9 days' time. He did this in compassion for the suffering of Israel which had been, and which was then, and which was to come. And on each of the 9 dawns was Wotan visited with a prophecy, and with a rune, and with the commandment to keep the rune. He survived his ordeal, and he taught his men to carve these runes, from which they articulated their whole alphabet, and the men who came after Wotan, his sons, regarded him as a god, for the miracle that had in him been wrought them. And the other nations of the world, most especially Sheba and Cush, anticipated the coming Messiah as the fame of Israel spread throughout the world. When had come 100 of years since the rededication of the temple by Judas Maccabeus, there came a great and brilliant strategist of Aeneas called Julius Caesar, who conquered the lands of Togarmah up to the sea, and made war with those of Togarmah who lived upon the sea isles, called the Britons by the Romans and called Cymri by themselves, and also fought battles against Ashtonites. Now there was a conflict in the succession of Maccabeus' kingdom, between Hyrcanus and Aristobulus, the sons of Alexander ibn Johann, and Hyrcanus was expelled, and sought the aid of the Romans under Pompey, who laid siege 3 years to Jerusalem and made Hyrcanus the high priest and prince of the Judahites. Hyrcanus gave power unto his courtier Antipater, a descendant of Edom, whose fathers had been converted to the religion of Judah, and who was hated by his people. And having conquered all of continental Togarmah, Julius Caesar rose to power in Rome, and was slaughtered by his friends in the same fashion as Cain had slain Abel, causing all of Rome to fall into strife. And the sons of Parni, of Magog, invaded the land of Israel, and drove Antipater out with the help of Antigonus Mattathias ibn Aristobulus. They captured Hyrcanus and cut his ears off, that he might not be priest again, and Herod ibn Antipater went unto the city of Rome, to plead the case of his people to Mark Antony ibn Julius. So Herod brought a large army into the land of Israel, and conquered it from Antigonus, who was taken to Antioch and executed by Mark Antony. 40. The Fullness of Time. In the fullness of time, there came a pious man Ioachim, of the descent of David, whose wife Anna was barren, and they prayed that she would bring forth. One of the gods said, Anna, thou shalt bring forth a daughter who will bring blessings unto all the world. And she brought forth a daughter, and called her name Miriam. And Miriam was keen beyond her years, and pious beyond all wise men, and they took her to Jerusalem to be blessed at the age of 3. And when she beheld the temple with 15 steps, she leapt from her mother's arms, and began to climb the 15 steps, singing from memory in beautiful song, in turn, the 15 psalms of ascent. And she was consecrated a temple virgin, and all the days of her life she committed no blameworthy sin, and had no carnal knowledge of man. When Miriam was come of age, and she was made to be turned out of the temple, for she would begin to issue blood, Ioachim and Anna had died, and been gathered to their ancestors. Therefore, the priests sent for an honorable man, who had him wives and children already, of the house of David, of a certain lineage, of the town of Nazareth, called Joseph, to be her betrothed and custodian, and to keep her virginity. At that time, Zacharias was serving as a priest, whose wife Elizabeth was advanced in years, and also barren like Anna, the sister of her mother, had been, and as he was burning incense in the temple, a god from Elohim appeared unto him, upon the altar, announcing that Elizabeth would conceive, and that his son should be called Johann. And Zacharias could not speak after this. 41. Annunciation to Miriam. 6 months after Zacharias' vision, as Miriam was sewing the temple curtain in the sewing room of Joseph's house in Nazareth, the god Gabriel appeared unto her and announced, Hail thou who art highly favored, Yahweh is with thee, blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thine womb. Fear not, O Miriam, for thou hast found favor with Elohim, and behold thou shalt conceive in thine womb, and bring forth a son, and shalt call his name Yeshua. He shall be great and shall be called Ibn Elion, and Yahweh shall give unto him the throne of his father David, and he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. Chokmah shall come upon thee, and the power of Elion shall overshadow thee, wherefore also that holy which shall be born of thee shall be called Ibn Elion. And behold thy cousin Elizabeth hath also conceived a son in her old age, for with Elohim nothing shall be impossible. And Miriam said Amen according to the God's word, who departed from her. 42. Exaltation of the Virgin. Then Miriam went unto the house of Zacharias, and greeted her cousin Elizabeth. And when Elizabeth saw her, the babe in her womb at once leapt about, worshipping and exalting Yahweh, who was in the womb of Miriam. And Elizabeth said, Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Yeshua, and whence is this to me, that the mother of my Lord should come to me? For lo, as soon as the voice of thy salutation sounded in mine ears, the babe leapt in mine womb for joy, and blessed is she that believed, for there shall be a performance of those things which were told her from Adonai. And Miriam said, My soul doth magnify Adonai, and my spirit doth rejoice in our Ishuati, for he hath regarded his handmaiden. For behold, from henceforth all generations shall call me blessed, for he that is mighty hath done to me great things, and holy is his name, and his mercy is upon them that fear him. From generation to generation, he hath showed strength with his arm, he hath scattered the proud in the imagination of their hearts. He hath put down the mighty from their seats, and exalted those of low degree. He hath holpen his servant Israel in remembrance of his mercy, as he spake unto our fathers, to Abraham and his seed forever. For indeed the dew of the glory of Yahweh was upon her who bore the king of Israel, though it were dry upon all the earth beside her, and she was protected in her pregnancy by 60 among the angelic host, bearing swords and keeping her from every evil. 43. The birth of Johann ibn Zacharias. Then was come the time of Elizabeth to bear, and she bore a son, and the attendants asked what she would call him, and were confounded by the name Johann, since it were not a name of his house. And they sent unto Zacharias inquiring what should the boy's name be, and he motioned for a tablet, and wrote the name Johann. And at once returned to the tongue of Zacharias, and he said, Blessed be Yahweh el-Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people, and hath raised up an horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, that we should be saved from our enemies, and from the hand of all that hate us, to perform the mercy promised to our fathers, and to remember his holy covenant, the oath which he sware unto our father Abraham, that he would grant unto us, that we being delivered out of the hand of our enemies might serve him without fear, in holiness and righteousness before him, all the days of our life. And thou, O child Johann, shalt be called the prophet of Elion, for thou shalt go before the face of Yahweh, to prepare his ways, to give knowledge of salvation unto his people by the remission of their sins, through the tender mercy of Elohim, whereby the dayspring from Elion hath visited us, to give light to those that sit in darkness, and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. 44. The Incarnation. And a census was raised at the request of Caesar the king of Rome, who ruled over Judea, so that Ioseph was to return from Nazareth unto his hometown, unto Bethlehem, together with Miriam, big with child. And when they arrived at Bethlehem, there was no room at the inn, and the time was come that Miriam should bring forth, and she brought forth Yeshua, that is Yahweh, inside of a cave for livestock, without breaking the skin of her virginity, and without pain, and a great cloud of light filled the cave. And the midwife was dumbfounded at the state of Miriam's virginity, and made to investigate, whereupon her hand was withered, and she was much afeard. There came 3 wizards out of the east, seeing a star and a god which foretold to them the birth of a king among Judah, and they came up unto King Herod and told him concerning the star, and asked him the whereabouts of the newborn king. Herod, vexed at the prospect of a usurper, summoned his priests, and his scribes, and his wizards, asking them where was said to be born Messiah ibn David, who told him, Bethlehem, according to Micaiahu. So Herod told the wizards to go and worship Messiah, and to report back to him, that he might also go and worship. And the 3 wizards came unto Bethlehem bearing gifts, and arrived on the 8th day, when Yeshua was circumcised, and they worshipped him, and were warned in a dream by the gods concerning Herod's plot, so they elected to return home by a different route, and not to report to him. When Herod realized that the wizards would not return to him, he ordered the extermination of all boys under the age of 2 in the district of Bethlehem. But Ioseph had already departed from that country with his wives and children, and, learning of the wickedness of Herod, he fled with them unto Egypt for a number of years before returning to Nazareth. When the days of Miriam's purification, according to the law of Moses, were complete, she and Ioseph took Yeshua up unto the temple to be blessed, and there was a priest there who was of extraordinary age, nigh 3 of the fullest lifetimes a man had seen since the days of Nimrod, and yet more, miraculously yet living and praying within in the temple, who was Simeon the translator. When he beheld the child Yeshua, he said, Adonai, now let thy servant to depart in peace, according to thine word, For mine eyes have seen thy Yeshua, who thou hast prepared before the face of all peoples, a light to enlighten the nations, and to be the glory of thy people Israel. 45. Temptation of Messiah. When he was 12 years of age, Yeshua went up to the temple to discourse with priests, and was wiser than they. And when he was 30 years of age, Johann his kinsman was preaching and saying, Repent, for the kingdom of Elion is at hand. Seek you salvation from the wrath of Elion, not in your being of the seed of Abraham. For every tree is judged by Yahweh, and every tree which bringeth forth not good fruit shall be hewn and cast into the fire. Johann was baptizing in the Eden, and he baptized Yeshua, whereupon descended Chokmah in the form of a dove, and the voice of Elion spake from heaven, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Yeshua went into the desert to fast 40 days, and was tempted of Helel. Helel bade Yeshua turn a stone to bread when he hungered, but Yeshua lived by the word of Elohim. Helel bade Yeshua, that if he should worship Helel, that Helel would turn over all his power over the souls of men unto Yeshua, that he should be their king forevermore. But Yeshua said that Elohim alone shall be worshipped, and that he himself would accomplish this task. Helel bade Yeshua cast himself from an high tower, that the gods of Elohim would upbear him, and Yeshua bade Helel not tempt Elohim. 46. Sermon on the Mount. Yeshua ibn Ioseph, Yahweh by Ninu, Elohim by Ninu, Emmanuel, then began his ministry, casting out demons and preaching the kingdom of Elion. When a great crowd had begun to follow him, he went up an hill over the Sea of Galilee, and opened his mouth, and spake, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see Elohim. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of Elohim. Blessed are they who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men shall revile ye, and shall persecute ye, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt hath lost his savour, wherewith shall the earth be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing but to be cast out, and trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world, and a city that is set out on an hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and set it under a bushel, but rather on a candlestick, that it give light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works, and may glorify your Father who is in heaven. Think not that I am come to destroy the law, neither the prophets, for I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, that till heaven and earth pass away, not one jot neither tittle shall in any wise pass from the law, not till all should be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore should break one of the least of these commandments, and shall teach men to do so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness should exceed that of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter the kingdom of heaven. Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not kill, that whosoever should kill should be in danger of judgment. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without cause shall be in danger of judgment, and that whosoever should call his brother empty-head shall be in danger of counsel, but whosoever should call him false should be in danger of hellfire. Therefore, should thou bring thy gift unto the altar, and there remember that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and afterward come and offer thy gift. Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time he deliver thee unto the judge, and the judge thee to the officer, that thou be cast in prison. Verily I say unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out from thence till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing. Ye have heard that it was said by them in old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that whosoever should look upon a woman, to lust after her, hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. And if thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish rather than that the whole body be cast into hell. It hath been said, Whosoever should put away his wife, let him give her a writ of divorce. But I say unto you, that whosoever should put away his wife, except for cause of fornication, should cause her to commit adultery. And whosoever should marry her that is divorced committeth adultery. Again ye have heard, that it hath been said by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but shalt perform unto Yahweh thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for heaven is Malchut shel Elohim, neither by earth, for she is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for she is the city of the great king, neither by thy head, since thou canst not make one hair white or black, but let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that you resist not evil, but whosoever should smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other as well. And if any man will sue thee at law to take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. And whosoever should compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain. Give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee turn not away. Ye have heard that it hath been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor, and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you, and who persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father who is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil, and on the good, and sendeth rain upon the just, and upon the unjust. For if ye love them which love you, what reward have ye in that? Do not even the publicans the same? And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye in that more than others? Do not even the publicans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father who is in heaven is perfect. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men, to be seen of them, otherwise ye have no reward of your Father who is in heaven. Therefore when thou doest thine alms, sound not a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues, and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and that thy Father, who seest in secret, himself shall openly reward thee. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and, having shut the door, pray unto thy Father who is in secret, and thy Father, who seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. But when you pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. Be not ye therefore like unto them, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask of him. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, now and ever and unto ages of ages. For should ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father forgive you also. But should ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither your Father forgive your trespasses. Moreover, when ye fast, be not, as the hypocrites, of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head, and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father who is in secret, and thy Father, who seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon the earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth neither rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through neither steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, then how great the darkness. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one, and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve Elohim and Mammon. Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, neither yet for your body what ye shall put on. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Behold the fowls of the air, they sow not, neither reap, neither gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are you not much better than they? Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? And why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of field, how they grow, toiling not, neither spinning. And yet I say unto you, that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like unto one of these lilies. Wherefore if Elohim so clothe the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow cast into the oven, shall not he much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? Therefore take no thought in saying, What shall we eat? Or, what shall we drink? Or, wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the nations seek, for your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of Elohim, and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for tomorrow shall take thought for these things of himself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Judge not, that you be not judged, for with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete it shall be meted thee again. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say unto thy brother, Let me pull out the mote of thine eye, when, behold, a beam in thine own eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote from thy brother's eye. Give not what is holy unto the dogs, neither cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them underfoot, and turn again and rend you. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he who seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Or what man is there of you whom, if his son ask bread, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he give him a serpent? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your Father who is in heaven give good things to them that ask him? Therefore all things whatsoever ye would that men should do unto you, do ye even so unto them. For this is the law and the prophets. Enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad the way, and many who go in thereat, that leadeth unto destruction, and strait is the gate, and narrow the way, and few who find it, that leadeth unto life. Beware ye of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither a corrupt tree bringeth forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits shall you know them. Not every one who saith unto me, Adonai, Adonai, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Adonai, Adonai, have not we prophesied in thy name? And in thy name cast out devils? And in thy name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Therefore whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto an wise man who built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And every one that heareth these sayings of mine, yet doeth them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man, who built his house upon sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. 47. The Transfiguration. Simon Peter was the first of his disciples to recognize Yeshua as both Messiah and as Ioel, and received first the blessing of Yeshua to oversee the ministry of his church on earth. There were 12 of these apostles, all told, who were with Yeshua when came the 4th year of his ministry, and a greater number of disciples besides these. The 3 foremost of the apostles, Simon Peter, Jacob, and Johann the beloved theologian, he did take with him up upon the Mount Tabor, where he was transfigured and appeared in a cloud of light, flanked by Enoch and Eliiah. And he said unto his disciples, and unto the prophets, Lo, I am Alpha and Omega, I am the tree of knowledge, and I am the tree of life. I am the fire which consumeth not the bush. I am the burning coal borne forth in silver tongs of the altar to purify all of you. I am the conquering Lion of Judah. I am become man that man might become a god. And he instructed his followers, that before the world should end, that he should go up from out of them, and dwell no longer with them, but would go up unto Elion, his father, and be judge to all the world, that after this fullness of time should come yet another fullness of time, wherein all the dead, everywhere, should rise from their graves, restored in full to their body, and should not fall down again, but rise forevermore to be judged, the righteous unto everlasting life in paradise, and the wicked unto final condemnation. 48. The Passion. When Lazarus, his friend from youth, was 4 days dead in the tomb, Yeshua resurrected him. This was on the Sabbath preceding the Passover feast. The next day Yeshua rode into Jerusalem upon a white colt, and all the people worshipped him. He went into the temple courtyard, and threw out everyone who was buying and selling there, overturning the money changers' benches, and the chairs of those who sold doves. He told them, as is written, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves." And all the priests wanted to kill him, since the people loved him more than them, and since they believed not that he was really Emmanuel. When the feast was come, Yeshua held it in an upper room with his disciples. He foretold that one of his followers, Judas Iscariot, would betray him unto the Roman government, and he instructed them always to remember him, that the bread is his immaculate body broken for us for the remission of sins, and that that which is in the cup is his precious blood shed for us and for many and for the remission of sins. They partook of this holy mystery, praying, "I believe, O Yahweh, and I confess, that thou art truly Messiah, Ibn Elion-Iahoueh, who is come into the world to save sinners, of whom I am chief, and I believe that this is truly thine own precious body, and that this is truly thine own precious blood. Wherefore, I pray thee, have mercy upon me, and forgive my transgressions, both voluntary and involuntary, of word and of deed, of knowledge and of ignorance, and make me worthy to partake without condemnation of thy immaculate mysteries, O Yahweh, unto remission of my sins, and unto life everlasting. Amen. Of thy mystic supper, O Ibn Elion, accept me tonight as a communicant, for I will not speak of thy mysteries to thine enemies. Remember me, O Yahweh, in thy kingdom, not unto judgment, neither unto condemnation. Be my partaking of thy holy mysteries, O Yahweh, but unto healing of soul and of body. And they cried, Receive the body of Messiah Yeshua, taste the fountain of immortality. Alleluia, Alleluia, Alleluia. And Judas departed to find the Roman garrison, who bought the whereabouts of Yeshua for 40 shekels. They arrested him, and Pontius Pilate the governor asked if he was the prophesied Messiah ibn David. Yeshua replied, Do you say that I am him? And Pontius was amazed. Then he brought Yeshua before the people of Jerusalem, and bade that, since it was the Passover time, that they let him know which prisoner they wanted released most badly, and he would do it. And they bade Pontius release another prisoner, and Pontius asked what is to be done with Yeshua ibn Ioseph, and the people cried, Crucify him. For so strong had been the priests, the Pharisees, in corrupting the hearts of Jerusalem against their king, that they themselves would have him slaughtered who stood before them wearing a crown of thorns. Yeshua took up his cross and walked, and was crucified upon Mount Calvary about the 6th hour, with a sign inscribed on the crossbar above his head, Yeshua Nazareth, Rex Oeorum. 2 thieves were crucified along with him, one on either side of him. The thief at Messiah's left hand spake unto him, If thou be Messiah, save thyself and us. And the thief on his right hand, who was called Demas, rebuked, Dost not thou fear Elohim, seeing thou art in the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds, whilst this man hath done no thing amiss. And unto Yeshua said Demas, Yeshua Yahweh Adonai, remember thou me when thou comest in thy kingdom. And Yeshua said unto Demas, Verily I say unto thee, today thou shalt be with me in paradise. And the 9th hour he died. His body was taken down, since the Sabbath was coming, and to make sure that he were dead a soldier called Longinus pierced his side with a spear, sending forth a shower of blood and water, and many other details of this deicide are known unto us from the Gospel books and are in accord with the Psalms of David and with other prophecies. He was laid in a tomb by Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy disciple of Yeshua's. His spirit went down into Sheol, and trampled upon the head of Helel. He slaughtered death, and resurrected all within the grave, sending the righteous up to heaven and returning the iniquitous unto the earth, who wandered upon her for a season and then fell down again. Eve rejoiced, Adam was recalled from the dead, the curse was slain, and mankind was endowed with life. Judas slit his own throat from shame, and became firstborn unto the new death, to rest quietly beneath the earth until he should be judged on the last day. So to be the fate of all who know the truth concerning these things and yet do not amend their lives to follow after Yeshua Yahweh Emmanuel. 49. The resurrection. And the 3rd day since Yeshua had died, early in the morning, the spirit of Yeshua, which is Yahweh, returned into his body, rose again and departed the tomb. He returned to his disciples, and Thomas could not believe it until he touched the wounds. And because it was then the 1st day of the week following the Sabbath, They all worshipped him on that day and on the first day of every week thereafter, and he instructed them in the liturgy which would make manifest his immaculate body and his precious blood in their midst, through transfiguring of bread and wine, and commanded that they should do this for all eternity, without fail, by the power of Chokmah to preserve the right, that all who taste of his body and of his blood should not perish but have eternal life, and that he should raise such an one up on the last day. He abode with his disciples 40 days, and then went up the Mount of Olives outside of the city. He bade them make disciples of all nations, and baptize them in the name of Elion the Father, Yahweh the Son, and the Holy Spirit Chokmah, that all should live forever who believe in his name and who taste the fountain of immortality in the body of the Elohim Messiah, for this is the fruit of the tree of life. Yahweh then ascended into heaven. He sitteth at the right hand of Elion. And he shall come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom shall have no end. 50. Descent of Chokmah. And 10 days after this happened, Chokmah descended unto the disciples of Yahweh in brilliant tongues of fire, that they should be full of the spirit of Elion forevermore, even after the temple be toppled over, and the land of Israel lain waste by Rome, and by Babylon, and the faithful spread out upon the face of all the earth, to live under the worldly tyranny of the Babylon, in the house of Helel, that they should have power to preach this gospel unto all nations, to supersede the old law of circumcision in the flesh, and ritual purity of the body, with the new circumcision that is baptism in the Spirit, and in purity of the Spirit, to cast out the fallen gods from their midst, to trample down sin, to work miracles of all kinds, and both clairvoyance and prophecy, and to therein bring salvation from death to all the world, and to make all men like unto gods. Amen. Appendix on Heresies, Judaization. The first heresy to trouble Messiah's church after he ascended was that of Abel, who held that the remission of sins, and life eternal, offered in Messiah Yeshua was only so offered unto those abiding in, and faithful to, the covenant law of Moses, and ritually pure therein. This heresy is a rejection of those prophecies which unambiguously tell that all nations are blessed in the seed of Abraham, and in Messiah. Simon Peter endorsed this heresy, and was rebuked by Saul Paul, who said, "There is not Yudahite and Naonite in Messiah Yeshua." Wherefore is it also made clear that Simon Peter be not a unilateral source of infallible authority. The Ebionites were the seed also of Mohammedanism, Gnosticism. Another heresy which arose early in our history is that of the Gnostics, who held divers opinions but, in common, agreed amongst themselves that flesh and material be of an irredeemably evil nature from all time. The most common version of their cosmogony holdeth that the gods whom we call created are, rather, uncreated emanations of Elion who have sex and beget other gods, of which first emanation Yeshua and Chokmah are two among many, that Chokmah, here described as female, is the source of all sin in refusing to have sex but rather conceiving a son without father and calling his name Ioel, who Ioel is one hideous and blind to the truth concerning Elion, and for this reason creates spacetime and peoples it with emanated gods trapped within prisons of flesh, and is worshipped by the Ebronites as their god Yahweh until Elion sendeth his favorite emanation, Yeshua, to teach humanity the truth concerning these things. The characterization alone, of Chokmah as the first and ultimate source of evil, should forbid any man from believing in this heresy, yet it held sway over some since it flattered man in declaring that he was already a god from all eternity, and needed no purification unto theosis. The law blatantly contradicteth every prophecy of Scripture which maketh abundantly clear that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is Rak Elohim, and is Elohim Yeshua, and not a lesser, flawed deity from whom Elion must save humanity. It is clear that the Gnostics could not have held their beliefs were they at all familiar with Yudahite religious thought, that they represent rather an entirely other system of religious thought making speculations concerning the teachings of Yeshua, which ideas are not compatible with Yeshua's own, as touching those prophecies concerning him. And the Gnostics composed many books impersonating the disciples of Messiah, and telling lies concerning his ministry, in which to peddle this false and impious teaching, Adoptionism and Docetism. There are two opposite and related heresies holding, on the one hand, that Yeshua was born an ordinary man, and was deified when he was baptized, or after the 40 days following, or, on the other, that he was an apparition of Yahweh among us, and not like unto us, that he was not a man. The former view was very popular for a time, and Johann the Beloved, the favorite disciple of Yeshua, wrote his gospel in explicit opposition to it. It is believed that Yeshua revealed to his innermost circle alone the truth concerning his incarnation, but we also can say with certainty that the prophecy of Ezekiel is fulfilled only in rejecting this adoptionist heresy. The opposite view, called Docetism, is contrary to every prophecy concerning Messianic, Arianism and New Metomachianism. The heresy of Arius is to say that spacetime was created before Elion begat Ioel, and before he sent forth Chokmah. Thus it is a rejection of the notion that logical causation can be apart from temporal causation, thus a rejection of eternality per se. In such a view, Elion himself cannot rationally be said to precede spacetime, annihilating the distinction between creator and creature. It is ultimately, thus, a monistic view in which the ultimate reality hath no features and no definition apart from his creation, since definition is, we understand, relational. The refutation of the idea that the begetting of Ioel be from all eternity, as is true, yet the same not be true of the procession of Chokmah, is more subtle but followeth essentially the same course, as we hold that relationship between any two persons of Elohim involved the triangulation of the third, Nestorianism. The heresy of Nestorius, which was rejected by its own author after being rebuked, is to say that the nature of Messiah Yeshua as a man, and the nature of him as Yahweh Elohim, are two separate natures, such that Miriam is said to have given birth to the one, and not to the other. This is incompatible with Messiah's revelation, I am become man that man might become a god. It maketh the incarnation to be not an incarnation at all. Even the same then might be said concerning Yeshua as concerning any prophet who ever spoke in the voice of Elohim, for indeed in what sense can we speak of Yeshua being Elohim at all, if not in the sense that Elohim was born of the Blessed Virgin, in the cave, and circumcised on the 8th day? Insofar, indeed, as we also have rejected adoptionism, monophysitism. The heresy of Eutychius, opposite to that of Nestorius, which likewise was rejected by Eutychius later in life, is to say that the two aforementioned natures of Messiah are so combined into one compound nature, that he be not truly of one same nature with man, which likewise contradicteth Messiah's own words on the matter. Pelagianism. The heresy of Pelagius is to say that remission of sins unto eternal life can be achieved merely by the exertion of the human will, Messiah Yeshua being the perfect human example of how to achieve this thing, which is contrary to the same words of Messiah concerning the reason for his coming. Hyper-Augustinianism. The heresy of Augustinian is opposite to that of Pelagius, and holds that we, from birth, have inherited sins from our fathers, ultimately from Adam, that cannot be forgiven by Elohim except through our belief in Yeshua as Messiah, and through his purgation of our sins by penal substitutionary atonement upon the cross, and furthermore that such belief in Yeshua, being itself a morally upright work, is possible only insofar as Elohim hath elected such a man from the beginning of time to believe in Yeshua, and thereby to be remitted his sins. Such a view is incompatible with the belief that Elohim is all-loving toward mankind, and with the belief that the heavenly host and men of the earth are alike created with truly free wills to act of their own accords, separately from the will of Elohim, and also incompatible with the innocence of Miriam to commit no blameworthy sins all the days of her life, even before she conceived Messiah Yeshua. Augustine is remembered as one blessed by Elohim, but not for his false teachings. They have since been condemned, though he died pious and faithful. Origenism. The heresy of Origen, who died long before his thinking had come under scrutiny and was condemned, is to say that not only the nature of man, but also the soul of man, and each individual soul of man, was created by Elohim before Adam was formed of clay, so that each newly begotten child is inhabited of a pre-existent soul, which soul might haunt many bodies in its life, and might experience hellfire for a time before being reincarnate, even that this is the only teleology of hellfire. Such an view rejecteth the many points of Scripture, such as those ascribed to Enoch, which make abundantly clear that the damnation of Helel, and that of Azazel, shall be for all eternity, and also those words of Scripture which speak of Elohim fashioning the souls of men as they are begotten, and they also are like the teachings of the Gnostics in supposing that man is, or was, already a kind of God. Monothelitism and Monoenergism. The heresy of Sergius is to say that though the natures of Messiah as man and as God are distinct enough that he be both man and Elohim, that he nonetheless hath, and during his earthly ministry did he have, a single will to power, that being Elohim's, and did not have a perfectly redeemed and perfectly obedient human will to power which conformed to the former, and there is a similar heresy holding likewise concerning the action or energy of Messiah, that he had only one and not the two, human and divine. These heresies ultimately are rebuked in the same fashion as that of Eutychius, Mohammedanism. The heresy of Muhammad is very great, insofar as he rejected the Church of Messiah Yeshua per se, and invented very many falsehoods contradicting our history whilst pretending outwardly to revere our prophets. He combined certain beliefs of the Ebionites with the rejection of Messiah as all that we have, here already, shown him to be. He brought the worship of Elion to his people, but rejected, as have his followers, the true faith, iconoclasm. The heresy of the Emperor Leo is to say that the incarnation of Messiah did not sufficiently redeem creation of her separation from Elohim so as to obviate the prohibition of icon veneration that was observed by the Israelites from the time of Moses. He held that images of Messiah were blasphemous against the commandments of Moses, and that images of saints were neither windows unto paradise neither could they communicate praises to the figures depicted. He rejected the ancient doctrine of Akarapoeta, that the earliest images of Messiah appeared miraculously, and rejected the miracles wrought by such images and by other images. Later followers of this belief have rejected the efficacy of sacred relics and of prayer unto the departed saints, rejected even prayer unto the honorable, blessed, and glorious Lady the Noshatal and ever-Virgin Miriam. This directly contradicteth the words of Messiah, that certain among his disciples should not taste death but should live forever, as well contradicteth the entire history of the Church since the descent of Chokmah. Petrine heresy. The Petrine heresy holdeth that Simon Peter held a special office which was not granted unto any other disciple, and that this office was transmitted singularly by Peter to Linus in the city of Rome, and that this office hath been, and shall until the last day be, transmitted singularly in an outwardly visible pontificate, from which deriveth the authority of all other bishops. This ariseth from a fundamental misunderstanding of the office of bishop, conflating Peter's status as the first bishop with a status higher than bishop. This view is flatly contradicted by Paul's rebuke of Peter, which even the Petrinists agree with, and by the times throughout our history, before the Petrinists went out from us and were condemned, when the bishop who is supposed to have been holding, at that time, the Petrine office, was contradicted by the Catholic consciousness of the Church and rebuked of his heresies. The Petrinists paradoxically believe both that the Petrine office be the source of all authority, but also that such authority be found valid and true only when confirmed by synod. They define true synods as those which agree with whosoever should currently hold the Petrine office, so that what they believe the truth, as revealed to the apostles, to actually be, might vary from time to time according to the whim of the pontiff. They further believe that it be the right and duty of this pontiff to revise the beliefs, practices, and religion of the Church from time to time, thus rejecting that the faith was received in full, once and for all, at the descent of Chokmah. Dioporianism. The heresy of two processions is to say that Chokmah proceedeth not singularly, from all eternity, from Elion alone, but that he proceedeth simultaneously, from all eternity, from both Elion and Yahweh. They conflate what is in Scripture, that it is through Yahweh the Son, and at his command, that Chokmah proceedeth energetically into creation, with the eternal procession of Chokmah which is before creation. Those who support this view maintain that the power to send forth Chokmah be natural to the nature of Elohim, despite the fact that they deny the absurd notion of Chokmah proceeding, from all eternity, from himself as well as from the two other persons, and despite the fact that they suppose not the power to beget Yahweh to also be natural to the nature of Elohim, since Yahweh is not begotten by Yahweh, neither by Chokmah, but from Elion alone. The Dioporianists suppose many other falsehoods also, such that they deny the logical priority of Elion to Yahweh, but they do not deny his logical priority to Chokmah, so that the manner in which Yahweh can be said to be begotten, can be said to be a son and Elion in contrast to father, is entirely unintelligible. In rejecting what they see as a fundamental inequality, in the orthodox doctrine, between Elion and Yahweh, they introduce a fundamental inequality between these two above and Chokmah below, who is manifestly subordinated unto father and son by the Dioporianists. Hence they indulge necessarily in pneumatomachionism, and it is no coincidence that these Dioporianists believe also in the Petrine heresy, since only by fighting against the Spirit can one suppose that the faith received at his descent on the 50th day after the resurrection could be in need of continual revision, such as by the Petrine Pontiff. Eucharistic heresies. Finally, without making mention of myriad minor heresies whose followers scarcely even pretend to be of the Church of Messianic Yeshua, there exist many who, in rejecting the Petrine heresy, have nonetheless committed heresy against the church hierarchy in many forms, all of which are confused because they speak against the hierarchy of the Petrinists and not against that of the Orthodox faith. But in rejecting the Petrine hierarchy, they have erred in rejecting also that the Eucharist entrusted to the duly ordained hierarchy, for that hierarchy to duly administer for the rest of time, and to discern between the worthy and the unworthy under the same penalty of judiciousness which Ezekiel took upon himself, to rebuke the wicked, be the proper and true and ordinary means of salvation, and that it consists truly of his immaculate body and truly of his precious blood, and instead find their means of salvation in the aforementioned heresy of Augustine, and they also are iconoclasts.